I hope you are enjoying the show. You are watching Y in the Morning only on Y254 TV. I am Hilda Wadidi, and it's about that time. If you know what Y254 stands for, we do celebrate all the youth and women, especially when they're shining. And this segment in specific is for Strength of a Woman. So do send in all your comments and your contributions to 22162. Start with YM254. And with me in studio, I have one Dr. Nancy Buka, who was the first lady to graduate with a PhD from Daystar University. I will allow her to say good morning, but currently now she's at the Aga Khan University as an assistant professor of multimedia journalism. Just say hello. The camera is camera 4.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much for coming today. And we'd like to understand your story. Being that it's Strength of a Woman, we'd like to know the steps in which you have taken to get to where you have gotten. So let's start. Let's start from the beginning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
And sharing my story will take a whole day, but I'll try and be as brief as possible. I'm a firstborn in a family of 5, and so we are 4 girls and 1 brother. And
4 girls and 1 brother.
Yes, yes. And I think for me, my story is different because of the fact that, you know, when you think about the empowerment of women,
yes,
oftentimes we imagine that, you know, we start from a place where, you know, the mother is there and present and is very much involved. When I was born, my mother was in school, and so at the very foundation of my life, my father was very instrumental in making sure that, you know, I had a very stable foundation, and he supported my mom through school, but also took care of me. So I have grown up, you know, having a very strong father figure in my life, who was, you know, part and parcel of my formation. And that in itself, you know, enabled me achieve what I have achieved, because when you have a father who reinforces what you're doing and tells you you can do it and you can be the best, you know, that you want to be, there is just a way that it secures you and makes you very comfortable as a girl child. And so with that kind of foundation, and, you know, and a mother who was a teacher who ensured that I got the best education. I would wake up at 4 a.m. every morning to write compositions that she would mark before I went to school. And I was just thinking about that this morning. Maybe I should turn those compositions into a book and, you know, talk about my 4 a.m. story or something like that, you know, because I did that for quite a long time of my teenage life. And with that, then, you know, I went into university, studied at State House Girls High School.
Ooh, State House Girls, what's that? What did you do?
Then it was the State House Girls High School. And then I went on to do my undergraduate. My passion was communication. My parents wanted me to do law. And so we reached a compromise, and I was allowed to, you know, to follow my heart's desire. What
was the convincing argument? Because I know sometimes when parents are strong-headed, yeah, all the youth out there, we can relate. How did you get it across to your parents that that's what you want to do and that's it?
It wasn't easy. I mean, my father always wanted me to be the lawyer. I mean, now we have a lawyer in the family. That happens to be my brother. Oh. You know, but
so the dream still came through.
Somehow it came through in one of his children. But I know it was such a tough call. I mean, he didn't understand why, you know, somebody would actually go to university to teach people how to talk, or to speak to people, because he felt you can do that. You don't need to go and spend 4 years doing that. And, you know, I studied at a time when we didn't have too many graduates, you know, coming out of university with a degree in communication. So I specialized in electronic media, which was my passion. And, you know, my first place where I actually honed my skills was this place at KBC. So I think driving in today was very nostalgic for me, because
so tell us what you were doing here at KBC like all those years ago.
So I started off as an intern, and I remember then, you know, coming from Daystar University, which was then, you know, the only university that was training in, you know, degrees in journalism and communication. I really had, you know, to prove myself that, you know, we are not just a theology university, that we actually are part and parcel of every sector of society. So I started off, you know, as an intern, and I worked as a reporter and a producer for a current affairs program. And I think that really made me realize that there is so much untapped resources in terms of getting women to be at the center of media and communication.
Yes.
Because a lot of their stories aren't told.
Yes.
And the reason why they aren't told is, one, we are not at the table where those decisions are being made, and secondly, we don't have the skill sets that would allow us to get into media and communication at that level. Then I also spent some time at Nation when they started their broadcasting division. And soon after, I got a scholarship to go back and do my master's. And part of the reason why I took up that scholarship was that it was going to allow me to get into a position of leadership and being able to mentor, young girls through teaching. And I think the other thing for me was that, whereas, the classroom education is great, I think a lot of young people need people that they can relate with.
Yes.
And people who understand their story.
Yes.
So I felt that, I needed to go back to the classroom and talk to people about, this is my story, and you can be anything that you want to be. You just need to set your mind.
I was even just about to ask you, like, your mom being a teacher, like, how, most of the times kids of teachers and blah 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 don't want to do teaching because of the harassment that they go through when your own mother is a teacher. So how did you get the same interest to teach, even after being in the media, being a reporter, seeing all that glam and all that? Why?
Well, that was not an easy decision. I think it came, it's one of those decisions that you weigh the options. And I remember when I was, when I was offered, just before I was offered the scholarship, it was a difficult decision for me to make. I had said, looking at my mother, and those were the days when they would write with chalk, I had said, I don't want to get all dirty with all the chalk and all that.
To be covered in white dust every day.
Yes. But I think what really motivated me was I saw how noble the profession was, and how everywhere we went, people she had taught would stop her and thank her for the support that she had and the impact that she had in their lives.
All right.
So at the point at which I was going for it, I thought, okay, I get to do a master's, which is a good thing, and teach in a university, which is also a good thing.
Yes.
And one of my grandparents was a professor in the university, and I would admire him, wearing all that, regalia. And I would say one day I'd like to do that, not as a student, but but as a professor. So I had many examples.
I've seen the woman like, I like that outfit. Like, I better get this PhD. Hey, yes. The small things that can motivate you in this life.
Yes. So I think having these people in my circle of influence within the family was a great booster in making me realize that I can be anything, because I saw them. There were people at the end of the day. We would sit down and have dinner. We would we would talk about other things. We would travel to the village together. And I said, if they can make it, then I can also make it. There's nothing that's really special about them. It's just that they had an opportunity and they had people who supported them in that cause. So with that, then I started my teaching career at Desa University as a graduate assistant. And I remember walking into my first class, and I think I was the same age as the students.
Oh, for real? Oh,
maybe a year or two difference. But I remember walking into my first class, and I had 60 students, and I had no idea what where to look. My feet were wobbling, and luckily then we had a lectern, so they didn't see all the movement.
Wow.
But it was one of those things that you walk out of class and you're saying, oh my goodness, I actually did that. And I think
wait, don't just move away so fast. No. I used to be a student at Desa University as well, so I'm trying to imagine a scenario where the lecturer is walking and I'm like, wait, are we age mates?
Yes.
And then there you are, wobbling. What was your first lecture about? What was your first? Can you remember your first?
Yes,
lecture?
I remember my first lecture. I remember my first course. It was a course, Introduction to Electronic Media.
Oh.
And the very first lecture was looking at the history of electronic media.
So how did you get through it? This class is actually 3 hours long. Where did the confidence set in?
At that time, there were 1.5 hours.
Oh,
so
I see.
we would meet twice a week, and I think that helped. And what also helped me was that the very first class that I went to, which was the first week, we didn't have a full class. So I had about 20 students, and many of them were getting through their registration. So that was not too bad. But the second week when I walked in, there were 60 plus.
Oops.
And you know, I just did not know what to do. So I remember calling my parents and telling them, you know, you guys, you need to pray about this, because I don't think I can do this. And I think one of the other challenges was that I never saw myself as a teacher. So for a long time, I could not understand why people don't get it. You know, I mean, you should get it. I explain it once, you should get it.
Yes.
So I really had to work on
the patience.
The patience and the fact that, you know, I need to understand that not everybody gets it the first time, that you need to give people time, you know, and just reflecting on my own education, that there were people who gave me time. I had some of the best teachers who gave me time and who believed in me. So that changed my you know, my teaching approach, so much so that, you know, several years after teaching, after finishing my master's when I was still at Daystar, I was nominated as, you know, the best lecturer in communication. And I said, oh my goodness, what are they looking out for, you know? But, you know, that was really humbling. Then I worked at Daystar for a long time. And in between, you know, during my time at Daystar, I was also honored to work in Liberia, the post-war Liberia after the 14 years of the civil strife, to help a university start a department of communication. And I remember the time when the opportunity came and I accepted it, I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Yeah, tell us about Liberia and the war.
So first of all, getting into Liberia after the war, you know, the country is trying to rebuild itself. So of course there's a huge security presence around the country. So getting through all the roadblocks to get to the university where I worked, which was ABC University, was quite a nightmare. But anyway, in you know, the roads, they didn't have proper roads. We got stuck. It rained. You know, a 4-hour journey would take close to 12 hours. You know, and then the other challenge for me was, you know, when you have worked in a Kenyan university system, you know that at the point at which you're getting undergraduate students, there's a certain age group that you're looking at. But part of my work in helping rebuild the university was develop the curriculum, but also teach the formative classes in journalism and communication. And I remember walking into a class where I was younger than all the students.
Oh, that must have been intimidating.
So that was not easy, and that shocked me. But part of the reason why that happened was, you know, for close to 14 years, this people's life, you know, was disrupted. You know, some of them, you know, were in the bushes, you know, because of the war. A number of them lost employment. A number of them were in school at the time but had to stop. And it really humbled me, you know. How
different is it to lecture a traumatized lot of students vis-a-vis now the Kenyan students?
I think one needs to be very patient, and that you want to first of all understand their story and where they're coming from, and always give them the opportunity to share, because they were very intelligent students.
Oh, I like that.
You know, they just needed the opportunity to complete their education. There were also those who were, you know, starting afresh. You know, they said, you know, in my pre-war life, this is what I was doing. I want to change, and I understand, you know, that media is very powerful in helping, you know, a country restore. So I had very intelligent students, and I had to, I think what helped me was, you know, when you have the credentials, then that helps you, you know, stand before those people.
Speaking of credentials, today is Women Crash Wednesday here, and we're all about celebrating women. However, with your credentials and a very well laid out CV which you have, You're single, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Can you tell us, like, what have you gotten that pressure of being married? Why did you choose to remain single all these years? And is it true that if you start getting married early and blah blah blah, it will affect your career in terms of achievement, in terms of women? Because we are put hizo vikwazo zinakwanga na wanawake, sijui familia blah 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 blah. But for you, you're still slaying. Yeah. So tell us.
Well, I don't think that marriage and family stops one from achieving what they want to do. I mean, my mother got married, I think, at the age of 19, and she had a successful, she's had a very successful career as a teacher until she retired about 2 years ago. So everybody has a different path that they'd like to take. I think for me, part of my story is not complete without mentioning the fact that, just at the point where I thought, I can start my life, my father, died. Yeah. And, being a firstborn, I had to ensure that, my siblings get an education and that they get a good enough education, just like I had been afforded, to enable them make something out of themselves. Yes. Because I didn't want to be the only one in my family who's educated and who has, a stable education at the expense of everybody else. So what I did was, made that call to say, let me spend some time ensuring that my siblings all get, university education, and it has paid off.
I like that. I guess that is true. Then they say that if you educate a woman, you've educated a whole village. Thank you so much for your story, and thank you so much for your sacrifice. But it is about that time we wind up this segment. Thank you so much for coming through, Nancy.
Thank you.
Do you have any last words of inspiration, a parting shot before we leave?
Yes, I think I do.
For the youth, yes.
Yes, for the youth, is that we need to have both men and women where the conversation is taking place, having both men and women at the table. And one of the things that helps us get at the table as women is education, and being able to share our stories, and ensuring that women are literate. So that's one thing that we at the Aga Khan University are doing to empower women through education. And we have a lot of opportunities for women. One of them is our Master of Arts in Digital Journalism program, that seeks to empower both men and women with leadership skills, entrepreneurial skills, innovation, so that they are, where the action is and where it's happening in terms of media and communication.
All right, that is one Nancy Booker for you. You have been watching Strength of a Woman only on Y in the Morning on Y254 TV. It is about that time. I do invite a Valentine. Valentine is coming through with Woman Crush Wednesday. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you for having me.
Do not touch that dial.
Thank you.